Well, hi, Eric. So nice to have you here for today's WG Contents Tips in 10 Minutes. Eric
Great to be here.
Steinberger is the Chief Marketing Officer of Atlantic Health System. So we're really excited to have him join us today. Welcome.
It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you. What is so cool about Atlantic Health System, among the many things that I've gotten to know your team over the years, is that you are, for the 15th year in a row, have been recognized as a best place to work on Fortune magazine. So congratulations, that's no easy feat. And I think what's even probably cooler than that is not only are you on the list for the 15th year, but you're number 4 in the healthcare list. So they do also segment out by industry. And so you're number 4 in the healthcare category. So that is really cool, and congratulations.
Yeah, no, it's a really it's an achievement the organization takes a lot of pride in, and the recognition, and a lot of work and energy has to go into it every year to continue to build on what we've done in the past. So it's so
Yeah,
important in healthcare, so a big area of focus for us.
absolutely. And I feel like that's what we're just hearing more and more about, is just the role and the relationship between marketing and human resources in building culture and helping with recruitment and retention. So talk a little bit about your role in supporting the culture and the work experience at Atlantic Health System, your role and your team's role.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So as the chief marketing officer, I oversee all internal and external communications for the system. So we have a dedicated internal communications team that has specialists who liaison with various different departments across the company. So we have an individual who's fully dedicated into HR, for instance. We also, in other departments like our engineering and IT departments,
Mhm.
as well as all of the different hospital presidents and other physician leaders across the system. Groups that have large populations that need to get communicated to, and we want to make sure that those messages are very clearly delivered across a mix of channels and mediums to ensure that there's understanding and engagement and feedback loops. And so having those individuals do that and have them as part of a dedicated team really helps with standardization and
Yeah.
leveraging sort of best practices.
Yeah. And so let's talk about a little bit of those best practices. I mean, you guys have been at this, for a long time. What are a few of the marketing or communication best practices that you've learned over the years that really support being the best place to work? Obviously you talked about, the collaboration and the partnership, but what are some of maybe the practices or approaches or initiatives that you've taken that have really risen as best practices?
Yeah, I guess I'd list a couple of things, and I'll start sort of more at the strategic level, and maybe starting and then get a little more tactical. But clearly, many different avenues of listening and understanding our
Mhm.
employees and the workforce, and what are the things that are keeping them up at night, the areas that they think are going well, the where they see opportunities and what we need to improve. Having that constant feedback loop and understanding is critically important. I think from that, there are certain areas that we've chosen to focus on. We talk about, a culture of reward and a culture of celebration, uh,
Mhm.
recognition, and putting in lots of different programs around that, and focusing on that from a communication standpoint. I think we also have a culture of sort of testing and learning and trying new things. I mean, there's a million, creative ideas, and not everything when it comes to driving employee engagement is, oh, I know if I, spend X amount of dollars here, it's going to directly translate
Right.
into this. So we got to try a lot of different things. And
Mhm.
so there's constant sort of innovation, sort of learning, analysis, what works, stick with it, grow, expand
Mhm.
on it. Stuff that doesn't work, sort of throw to the side and try something new next year.
Mhm.
And then when it actually gets down into and where my team really plays a big role is on that communication itself. And so it's
Mhm.
bringing in a lot of the best practices of marketing. I mean, what
Right.
is what are the touch points? What is the creative elements? What's the copy? How the
Mhm.
simplicity, how it's formatted, what are the things we want to call attention to? How do we lay this out in as clear a way as possible so
Mhm.
that people can understand and understand the implications, because some things might be really simple, but others, a change in our benefit program, or
Mhm.
something about work shift hours or things like that, that um, can have huge implications, and we want to be able to manage through. So, and then obviously multi-channel over and over
Right.
and over again
Yeah.
to break through, because the workforce, especially in healthcare, we have whole departments, large numbers of employees that aren't sitting in front of computers,
Right.
8 hours a day waiting for an email to show up for them to open up and read. So how do you reach all of
Mhm.
these different audiences?
So I love you talk about celebration and recognition. You talk about learning and iterating and getting that feedback and all the meeting your associates and your employees where they are through all the different communication channels. Can you give us like I love the celebrating one because one of our core values here too is fun. Like and there is so much value in just creating a fun workplace and one that you celebrate each other. So can you give us one example of something that you feel like let's just even say over the past year that like this is a really popular thing that we do in our organization that is celebrating. Maybe you've heard from your employees that it's something they really enjoy and appreciate. What are some of those things that come up for you?
Yeah, well, I'll give you two examples because I can't settle on just one. So, one is we have a formal structured HR program around award and recognition,
Okay.
and a
Yeah.
point-based program, and we have a budget, and we really put a tremendous amount of emphasis around that. And from a communication standpoint, it's really, hitting up all the leaders in the organization and saying, hey, you have a point balance. You have to, make sure you use all your
Mhm.
points. Think about people you need to recognize. Here are templates of just quick emails that you can copy and paste if you're someone who struggles with coming up with the nice words to sort of reward or recognize an employee. So, um, a lot of those programs exist, but it's the activation and the structure around that program that I
Mhm.
think makes a difference in really driving
Mhm.
the engagement. And people, just love to get little, pats on the back.
Yeah.
The other tool that we have that we really encourage a lot of engagement in, is a tool we call Workplace, which is really a social, it's sort of like Facebook, but Facebook
Oh, okay.
just for the employee base. So different
Okay.
departments can create sort of different friend groups, or other groups
Yeah.
within there. And leaders are highly encouraged. You could just do a quick, video and post it up there,
Oh, that's
or
nice.
throw pictures up of, this
Yeah.
department won a particular reward, and let's celebrate it. And then everyone can comment and like and heart it and
Yeah.
do all the, normal stuff you could do
Yeah.
around social
And
media.
that's called workplace.
Uh, yeah, it's actually a tool developed by Meta, although they're shutting it
Okay.
down. So, but
Oh,
we're moving over to it. There's a million tools out there. Viva
yeah.
Engage is one that is very
Yeah.
popular. It's a Microsoft tool,
Okay.
that
Has
given
the
where
same sort of
the shop
application and
has all those sort of engagements.
okay.
And what's great about tools like that also are they're mobile first. And
Right. Yeah.
again, when you talk about our workforce and we're meeting them where they're at,
Right.
hitting
Right. Yeah.
right on the
Well, I
phone.
always think too, I mean, it's like, I mean, you have a very large organization and it's geographically across several, markets and locations. And any opportunity you have to make that big world a little bit smaller, and create kind of those smaller communities, whether that's online or in person, I think that's going to pay off. And so do you have to monitor that in any sort of way? I mean, or is that, I mean, does anyone kind of own that in terms of monitoring like what
Yeah,
kind
yeah, my
of
team
chatter
actually
happens?
owns it. My team owns it.
Okay.
There is,
So
monitoring
your
and
team owns
sort of,
that.
yeah,
Okay.
we manage that platform.
Okay.
Then we help sort of drive engagement on that platform. And then there's certain things like if there's a big internal meeting, or conference that we're doing, and an exec is speaking, sometimes,
Mhm.
we'll live stream it
Yeah.
across the platform, stuff like that. So it's a tool that really, unlike a lot of the historical traditional communication tools, which are
Right.
one, email blasts, or um, big posters you put up on the walls. This is more of a way to
Yeah. Well, and
foster
it's kind of a live,
two-way communication.
yeah, in real time. And is it integrated with your intranet then? And it's easily accessible?
Not as deeply as it will be, but that's
Okay.
why we're moving away and
Yeah.
moving the
I love that.
retail project, because
Yeah.
then, and that's where, I mean, look, everyone has their different we're a Teams, Microsoft Teams,
Sure.
Outlook,
Yeah.
shop, and
Yeah.
then this is their social tool. It's called
Okay.
Viva Engage.
Okay. So I would imagine that that's one tool that you have to really actively listen to
Yep.
your, your workforce. I know in marketing, we have access to so many tools to understand, intent and behaviors and, all of those things, pathways and, care pathways and stuff. But as it relates to really actively listening to your employees, I would imagine that's a great one because they might be
Yep.
posting questions, in real time. What are some other tools that you use to really, I mean, employee surveys is a great example, but anything else that's sort of on all the time for you to really hear what your employees have to say?
Yeah, I mean, I think I would say a couple things. Like, yeah, we have a pretty rigorous survey process,
Okay.
and so everyone does employee surveys, but I think there's a level of sort of depth of analysis that you
Hmm.
can go to at different department
Hmm.
levels, or slicing and dicing it different ways, and building. If you set those surveys up the right way, what
Hmm.
really are the underlying drivers. So that's a big piece. We do a lot of analytics on all of the employee communications that we do. So,
Okay, sure.
we built, we know sending, a certain communications to certain audiences, what, vastly different open rates, click-through
Hmm.
rates, engagement, subject
Hmm.
line testing, all sorts of stuff like that. That is same stuff we do with consumers that makes meaningful difference in sort
Right,
of making
right.
sure
Yeah,
the messages get through, and also helps us uncover insights as to not
yeah,
just how to communicate certain things, but what are the things
right, right.
that are driving engagement. Similar to, creative testing when we're working on, there's lots of messaging.
Hmm.
Here's an example, masking, protocols, coming out of COVID. COVID's high, COVID's low. Are we masking? Are we not masking? Who's
Hmm.
doing what? Um, those can get really complicated across the whole system, building
Yeah,
simple tools
right.
that and simple communication ways to just make that easy.
Yeah.
And then, I think the last thing I would say, and it's much more informal, but again, culture beats strategy,
Hmm.
6 out of 7 days a week,
Right.
is that really just hammering of the function of the line leadership, or
Hmm.
myself at the executive level, but then, all the way through middle and frontline leadership, is the one-on-one communication with the people
Right.
on the team
Yeah.
and letting them feel heard. At the end of the day, we've all seen all the studies, whatever it
Right.
is, 60% of employee happiness is about your direct relationship with your
Hmm.
boss.
Hmm.
So, we could do all the great, sort of programs in the world, but if they're not sort of being internalized by the
Right.
leadership
Yeah.
day to day,
Yeah.
um, it's not going to happen. So we spend a lot of time and energy on development work around frontline leadership and
Yeah.
stuff to,
Yeah. Yeah. We could
really be
spend
the keepers of that engagement.
hours, yeah, talking about that very thing. I mean, that whole idea of like cascading, messaging throughout the organization and equipping those, you know, leaders with the right, not like scripts, but the right messaging to communicate to those employees is it's a little bit of an art and science, right? I mean, it's a,
Yeah, and
be a
even just
very
sort of,
thoughtful process.
yeah, and
Yeah.
even the choice of what we're going to emphasize, because there's always a
Mhm.
million things that are going
Exactly.
on. And
Right.
so I have, an all staff meeting once a month,
Yeah.
and it's an hour. So if I choose to take 10 minutes to talk about some ABC, then, that's sending a message about its importance versus
Yeah.
other things that I might not choose to talk about.
Right.
So
Right. Yeah. Well, this has been, I feel like we could talk about this forever. It's only, we've already, I think we're past the 10 minutes. So with that, I will say thank you again for joining us. And maybe in closing, if we were to walk the campus and walk the hallways of your organization, what would be kind of like, what would people say? Here's why I love working at Atlantic Health System. What do you think you would hear? Like, what would be kind of the reoccurring message?
Um, yeah, so first I would say thank you for having me, and it's
Yeah,
always
it's been a
wonderful to be
pleasure.
able to participate in these kinds of
Yeah.
things. And then to your question about, what people would say, and it's also, I think, what I love about
Yeah.
Atlantic Health is nice people. I know it sounds really silly, but it's an organization, even from the day I walked in the door to interview.
Hmm.
People say good morning, hello, smile on their face, generally
Hmm.
want to know how your day was.
Yeah.
That sort of caring culture that
Mhm.
exists in healthcare to bring to patients is also felt by the employees at Atlantic Health. And
Absolutely, yeah.
I think we
I
all get to sort of points in our career where just, being around nice people is a big part about what can make a day go
yeah.
good or bad.
I feel like we work in the same kind of work culture because that's a lot of like what our CEO says too. And so I appreciate that, and we appreciate you and your team. So thank you again.
That's
And
great.
if anyone has any questions or comments or needs, maybe Eric, are you comfortable with us including your contact information?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay,
I'm
because
always happy to.
I love these ideas, and I'm sure people will want to hear more from you. So thank you again.
Great. Thanks,
Bye.
Kirsten.